Social condition of Chinese civilization. The Chinese society was traditional society. It was a male-dominated society, so that every decision has been taken by the male in Chinese society. Family formed the basis of society. Parents, especially the mother, inculcated, or you can tell as this mother teach the moral value among the children. Girls were considered as burden to the family. The position of women was not so high. Anyhow, women commanded respect based on her fertility, workmanship, and obedience. So this workmanship can be told as the degree of skill, and later comes obedience. The Chinese society had 4 classes based on the nature of work of the people. The top class included officials, scholars, and teachers. The second class comprised of farmers. Artists formed the third class, merchants formed the last. Mandarins, a small class of the people who were able to read and write Chinese scripts, enjoyed honor, respect and power both in the society and the government. The next part you are going to learn about the economic condition of Chinese civilization. So this Chinese civilization was an agriculture based society. Canal irrigation was well developed by Chinese. Canals were also used for drainage and navigation. They used agricultural implements made of iron and wood. Wheat, rice, soybeans, cereals were the main agriculture crops. Tea and horticulture crops, you can tell as this gardening cultivation, were also grown. They mainly domesticated animals like pigs and sheep. They developed poultry too. Next, with regarding to the industry and crafts. Carpenters, smiths, woodcutters, masons, potters, weavers formed the important craftsmen. Silk was an important contribution of China to the world. It was major luxury exporter from China. China had trade relation with West through a land route via Afghanistan and Persia, and also through Indian Ocean, which is known as Silk Route. Chinese learned to grow cotton from Indians. Silk, iron, tea, salt and cotton products were the main items of export. After 10th century, Chinese goods dominated international trade. Opium, or it is known as a flower that forms latex. So opium formed the important item of their trade. In the early period, barter was practiced. Later, metal were used as medium of exchange. Coined money came to be used in around 5th century BCE. Money lending and banking were practiced in China from 5th century BCE. Next, with regarding to the learning and literature, Chinese had developed the art of writing during Shang period. Chinese script was standardized during Qin rulers. So these are the dynasty which I had taught you earlier. They have no alphabets and parts of speech. So it consists of characters which are more than 40,000. Chinese writing started as a pictograph. Later, they developed character or logogram. Chinese characters constitute the oldest continuously used systems of writing in the world. The writing played an important role in cultural unification. Chinese script also influenced Japanese, Korean, and Vietnamese script. It is written from the top to bottom. The invention of paper, silk, and ink for writing helped the growth of writing and literature. The practice of writing history was also popular in China. The rulers got compiled, or in the sense it can tell as a list of books produced by assembling information collected from the sources. So the rulers got compiled their histories. The Chinese literature comprises prose, poetry, philosophy and history. During Han and Tang dynasties, so I think these are familiar to you. So during Han and Tang dynasties, Chinese poetry reached its height. The imperial library of Han dynasty included 3,123 volumes of classics, 2,705 volumes of philosophy, 868 works on medicine, 1,318 volumes of poetry, 2,568 volumes of mathematics, and 790 volumes of war aspects. Tai Li Po The greatest of the Chinese poets wrote 30 volumes of verses. Tu Fu was also a great poet. So these are the names you need to remember. Chinese had developed geography, geometry, arithmetic, calendars, astronomy and predicted eclipses. Next, with regard to the important inventions of Chinese. Silk, tea, ink, paper, brush for painting and writing, abacus, that's what known as mathematic tool, acupuncture, hijama, rudder, gunpowder, glass, pottery, porcelain, that's what known as ceramics made vessels, rockets, spoon, forks, umbrella, seismograph is also known as an instrument measure and record the earthquake, and maritime compass, etc. are the important contribution of Chinese to the world. Art and architecture. Art of painting. The Chinese had developed wonderful painting. They painted on silk cloth, tomb walls, pots and papers. They believed that tomb painting were means to protect the dead and help their soul to go to heaven. Sculpture. Chinese developed the art of casting bronze statues of animals and monsters. This art developed during the Shang and Chaos. So these were the dynasties. Buddhism influences sculpture and the statues of Bodhisattva. Bodhisattva means any person who is on the path of Buddhahood. So Buddhist influence the sculpture and the statues of Bodhisattva carved in stone are found in large number. Next, terracotta sculpture. So these all belongs to sculpture. The terracotta army assembled in the tomb of the first Qin emperor consists of large size of images of more than 8,000 warriors and horses. They are very attractive. Architecture. Chinese were massive or large builders. The Great Wall of China is one of their most impressive and everlasting architectural accomplishments. So you all know that I have explained you already that Great Wall of China is constructed by Shi Huangdi. Why? The reason of construction is to protect his kingdom from the attacks of Huns and Mongols. So Huns and Mongols, they were the tribes. So he tells that the Great Wall of China is one of the most impressive and everlasting architectural accomplishment. It was purely built for utilitarian purposes of protecting the country from Huns, Mongolians and other invasion. It is 2,380 km long, about 22 feet high and 20 feet broad. After every 300 feet, a watchtower of 400 feet high is built. It is one of the wonders of ancient world. It was not popular among the Chinese, so listen carefully. The Great Wall of China is not popular among the Chinese. Why? Because forced laborers were used to construct it, in the sense the Great Wall of China. The portion of the Great Wall were rebuilt and reconstructed by later dynasties after Shi Huangdi's dynasty. So the wall is still standing. They also built great palaces, but none of them survived as they were built in mud and wood. They built Buddhist temple the Buddhist temple in China is called as pagodas. Important among them are Giant Wild or Goose Pagoda, Jet Pagoda and the Flask Pagoda. So these were the three temples. The temple of Sleeping Buddha outside Peking present, that's in Beijing, or it is the China's capital, Beijing, is not worthy or notable. Next we are going to learn about the philosophy and religion. The three philosophers of China, namely Lao Tse, Confucius and Mencius, have influenced the religion ideas of Chinese to a greater extent. So let's know about Lao Tse. He was a great philosopher. He lived before Confucius, the second philosopher. So this Lao Tse was a great philosopher, but he lived before Confucius in about 600 BCE. He worked as a curator or keeper or custodian of a museum in a royal library of Zhou ruler. He was disgusted or strongly disapproved with the corrupt political system. Hence, he left to remote part of China and wrote a book called Tao Te Ching, The Way of Life. His philosophy is known as Taoism. Tao preached non-violence, not to be conservative. That means don't be orthodox. Society should be respect wise person, duty with sincerity and honesty, and so on. Some of his important sayings are: violence defeats its own ends. Wisdom can never be transmitted or passed by words. One should be good to good and good to evil. The things in the nature work silently. If you do not quarrel, no one can quarrel with you. So these were all about Lao Tzu's saying. Confucius. Confucius was the greatest of the Chinese philosopher, born in the kingdom of Lu in 571 BCE. He lost his father at the age of 3. He faced lot of difficulties. Confucius learned archery, in the sense this bow and arrow, and music. He married at the age of 19 and gave up the family life at the age of 23. He worked in different capacities as language teacher, editor, judge and ministers. He proved to be a great philosopher and teacher. The philosophy of Confucius is known as Confucianism. The principle of Confucius had basis in common Chinese tradition and beliefs. He taught loyalty towards family, worship of ancestors, respect to elders, and unity among the people of China. The sayings of Confucius are: what you do not like when done to yourself, do not do to others. It is considered as the golden rule of Confucius. Character is the foundation of society. Wisdom begins at home. The great man acts before speaks and speaks according to his action. The society rests of the obedience of children to their parents, and of the wife to husbands, and students to their teachers. Excessive taxation and barbaric or cruel punishment should be abolished. To see what is right and not to do it is what of courage or of principle. It tells that it is enough to know what is right, you have to do what is right. Next, he wished that unemployed to be provided jobs. The government must protect the orphans, the aged, the widows, and the deceased and disabled. Mencius, another great philosopher of China, lived between 372 and 289 BCE. His early name was Mengzi. He was influenced by the teaching of Confucius. He thought that every person must have equal rights. According to him, all individuals are good. All social evils come due to illiteracy, ignorance, and poverty. Anyhow, his teachings could not become popular as of Confucius, as his teachings were similar to that of Confucius. Next, with regard to Buddhism. No particular religion was followed by the ancient Chinese. They essentially worshipped the spirit of their ancestors. Buddhism also had a great impact on the life and philosophy of China. Buddhism spread to China from India during Kanishka's period in 1st century CE. The Buddhist monks and traders of India popularized Buddhism in China, but it could not develop until the decline of Han Dynasty, because it strictly practiced Confucianism thought were in Han Dynasty. Later, Chinese ruler, the dynasties, namely Yuan dynasty and Manchu's dynasty, that were the last dynasty, used it to connect with the Chinese and justify their rule. During these dynasties, Yuan dynasty and Manchu's dynasties, Buddhism became the state religion. Even now, it is the popular religion of this country, in the sense China, and has influenced every aspect of Chinese society.